Okay, let's talk about selection, right? There's going to be a ton of this. Obviously, you've got to select what you want to edit if you're going to do any editing. So I have a little scene here. We've got a camera, we've got a light, and we've got a sphere. Let's dive into the sphere here, and let's click on this little arrow right here. This is our select tool. With this active, we can click and drag and select the pieces that comprise our geometry. Now, when I say pieces that comprise our geometry, what do I mean? Well, all geometry, if we open up our info here, and I'll click this little pin icon so it doesn't go away when I click away. We'll pin it to our screen. You can see that geometry is comprised typically of points, primitives, and vertices. Now we do have this little blue polygons thing at the bottom here, but this just refers to the type of primitive that the geometry is made of. If we switch this from primitive polygon to primitive NURBS, a different type of surface, then we can see here, when we update this, that now we have one primitive, and it is a NURBS surface primitive. I'll switch this back to polygon. In fact, I'll switch this back to polygon mesh. I like that shape better. Polygon gives us triangles, and polygon mesh gives us quads instead. So I'll stick with quads. We'll refresh this, and we can see that this sphere is comprised of 266 points. Those are these things, these big, beautiful blue dots. 288 primitives, which are these things, these faces, and 1,104 vertices, right? I can't remember where I heard this, but to me, it's the best definition of what makes up geometry. You can almost think of it like a tent. The points are the nails. The vertices are the little loops that link into the tarp, and the primitives are the tarp themselves. You can think of each primitive as an infinitely stretchable tarp. But at the end of the day, however far you stretch it, we have to pin it into a place in 3D space somewhere in order to make up a shape. So here we can see, first we've got our tarp right here stretched to 4 distinct corners. We've got our points, our nails that are pinned into the ground, so to speak, our position in 3D space. And we have the vertices that are the little loops that the tarp is hooked onto that are connecting the two together. The vertices we do not edit very much, at least I don't in my workflows, so we're not going to worry too much about that. We want to manipulate mainly the points and the primitives. The vertices come more into play when we're dealing with UVs, which is going to be down the line a little bit in this tutorial series. For now, let's just focus on the points and the primitives. Again, with that select tool active, which you can just press S to activate, press 2 on the keyboard, we can highlight our points. Press 3 on the keyboard, we can highlight our edges. Press 4 on the keyboard, we can highlight our faces. Now, there's multiple ways to activate that besides 2, 3, 4. Those are just the ways that I use. I like them a lot. But you can also click up here. Whenever you have a tool or something active, if this area above the scene view is populated, typically it is, in a way you can think of it as the tool's parameters, ways to change the way that the tool operates. We'll be using stuff in there throughout the tutorial series, so you will get reps with that. But just know that these icons are there, and they do change based on what you're doing in your scene. So we can select, here. We can also click and hold over here and choose, hey, I want to select points or edges or primitives, etc. There's also additional tool parameters in each of these. If you click and hold, you can kind of see there's a little arrow right to the bottom right of this icon. That indicates that by clicking and holding on it, it will reveal its parameters to you. So a good example for this is this area select visible geometry only. Now, also note, there's shortcuts for all of these on the right-hand side if shortcuts are set by default for Houdini. So if we click and hold this box, hover over the area select visible geometry only and let go, it will checkbox it. I pointed to the screen like you could see my finger, which is just an insane thing to do. But point is, it is checkboxed it, which means now that parameter is active in our tool. So if I go to click and drag and highlight, you will notice it only selected the visible geometry base drop. That's pretty cool, right? And if we hit Shift V to get rid of that, now when I do the same exact thing, it selected all the geometry. So these are little tool parameters that you can utilize to best navigate and select in your scene. Now, when it comes to selecting itself, let's say the box is not the ideal choice. Let's say something is very close to this object and we want to kind of, drag around and navigate a little bit nicer in the points or the primitives that we're selecting. When I hit 2, switch back to point mode, and then if I click and hold on the arrow key, because we can see there's other options, this bottom right black arrow. If we click and hold on this, I'm going to choose lasso picking instead. Could have just pushed F3 if I wanted, but I'm going to let go on lasso picking, and now round them up. Or I can brush select instead. Lots of different options. You'll also see, look, area select visible geometry only's here as well. This is what I was saying earlier, where in Houdini, there's so many different ways to do these things. Like, there's different ways to access these tools. There is no right or wrong answer. It's more just getting comfortable in the options that you have and finding what's best for you. Now, let's say click and drag is not the way that I want to select these things. Let's say I want to select this face and this face. Well, if I hold shift and click, I can add additional faces or points or edges to my selection. If I control and click, I can get rid of those from the selection. I can also click and drag with shift to add additional things. If you don't hold shift, it will replace your selection every single time. So shift is how you additively add to your selection, and control is how you can remove from that selection. Another handy thing is selecting lines of polygons, right? A lot of the times if our topology is clean, we may want to select a clean streak of polygons for whatever reason. If you click, hold shift and A at the same time, that's essentially, if you think about it, A is short for all. So if you're holding shift, you say, I want to add, while holding A down as well as saying, I want to add all the polygons between that first selection and this next one. You then left mouse button click, and congratulations, you've got a row. But if you click, hold shift and A, and middle mouse button instead, it will select a loop, right? I won't go into too many more of these because I don't want to overwhelm you with them, but those two in particular, shift and A, and click, and shift and A, and middle mouse button click, are very, very handy. So they're good to kind of put in the back of your mind. There's also helpful things like holding shift and G to grow, or shift and S to shrink. Right? G for grow, S for shrink. Most of the shortcuts in Houdini are pretty well thought out, I think. And then the last one that I'll give you here, if you hold shift and A, middle mouse button click, we've got another loop now. If I hold shift and H, this is the flood fill. I mean, you can actually see here at the bottom while I'm holding it. Look, hold A to select full, middle mouse button on partial, left middle mouse button on loops, like we talked about, or hold H to select by flood fill. That basically just says, this is actually a better example. I'll highlight this, and I'll highlight this. And by holding shift and H now, we are going to flood fill everything between the two selections. So in this way, you're essentially coloring in the edges of your object and then fill selecting the center of that, right? Now, I know I'm going into a lot of detail, so don't stress yourself out over memorizing all of this, and I may make this reminder a few more times. This is more just so you know some of the capabilities that we will be tapping into in the future, so they don't take you by surprise. If you enjoyed this video and you want to learn more, head to doublejumpacademy.com/Jordan for the full course. Link's in the description. You're just a click away. Click it.